They told me it was just bad writing. They called me crazy just for picking up the patterns they were putting down. But I knew something smelled off in the animation room. And it wasn't just the Toei animator chained to their desks, barred from ever seeing their family again. This was sabotage. This was a premeditated character assassination. The victim? One Vinsmoke Sanji, age 21. Eyebrow curl, classified. Occupation, kicking ass and cooking meals, apparently that the cat wasn't very fond of. Toei hates Sanji, and I, the great anime detective, armed with undeniable evidence, I'm here to solve the case. The plot began back in May 19th of 2024, with an episode suspiciously titled A Beautiful Act of Treason, The Spy Stussy. In this episode, the plot against Sanji started subtly, with a relatively lackluster scene of Edison getting saved. For a scene where Sanji shows a feat in which he outspeeds a pacifista's strongest attack, it should have been a banger, a top-tier feat. Instead, it's played off like a bad joke. Like most criminals, our perp was testing the limits. How far could they push before someone noticed? The double agent at Toei worked no time in corrupting soon after their first, common amongst criminals, likely being on a high after their first hit. On June 4th of 2025, the episode A Shudder, the evil hand creeping up on the laboratory, was released. Once again, the title likely alludes to the perpetrator's ever-spreading corruption within Toei Animation. The plot to slander Sanji began to ramp up within this one, in a scene where Sanji was thirsting over Stussy, our victim, begging for the attention of a punk, and there it was.
Let's get serious and look for Stella, silly puppy.
The moment they broke him, Sanji, reduced to a panting puppy, barking for affection, not a gag. This was a message. This was all made up by the perp, architecting a scene in which they would maniacally laugh at the Sanji fans they hated so intensely. The perpetrator kept the train going with episode 1110, titled Survive, Deadly Combat with the Strongest Form of Humanity, with Survive potentially referring to Sanji's dire state. After testing the waters, our perp would begin to out themselves on this very day. In this episode, in order to protect Nami, Sanji would dive kick the Seraphim S-Shark. While on the surface, this seems like a faithful adaptation. Toei is notable for putting all their employees' hearts into each moment, though this one was suspiciously flat. Once again, a Sanji scene, which is suspiciously the only one affected by this conspiracy. A good criminal will hide their intentions. In this assassination of character, smart, far too smart. In episode 1111, Sanji would have his epic standoff against S-Shark, in which he would tank a full-power Fishman Karate Cross using his exoskeleton. In comparison to the other Sanji fight scenes, this stood out, as it was surprisingly not used to humiliate our victim. They likely hid this from us in 1111, as that is an angelic number, and to massacre Sanji on such a sacred episode would have made their intentions far too clear. Even Helen Keller would have noticed. Though, the great detective analyzes all the outliers, and I know when I'm being messed with. With a title like The Second Ohra, The Mastermind's Ambition, there were still clues to find. The perpetrator clearly thinks themselves to be better than us. Sanji was able to remain uncorrupted for a while, as there were many plots outside the island of Egghead, a perfect opportunity for the general audience to forget. But the anime detective doesn't forget about crimes, transgressions, and infringements on the innocent. Episode 1123, The World Shakes. A fitting title, because the internet finally started waking up. But the hostage situation wasn't just a plot. It was Sanji, a prisoner of Toei's twisted writing. Now returning to their operation, they had to be subtle, and removing Sanji from a group panel was the perfect starting place. Only eagle-eyed detectives would have noticed this. A truly perfect crime. It would intentionally leave the space where the victim should have been, in case they were caught. The perp could easily say they forgot to include him, but those lies are nothing but that. Dirty lies. In the end, they were too confident. They left clues behind for us to discover. The people started to wake up when they made our innocent victim, with dreams as big as his eyes were wide. They made this generous, kind sweetheart give heart eyes to Bonnie, a pink-haired 12-year-old. A scene entirely fabricated, as in the manga he was very much not swooning over the child, but rather Nami. In many situations, falsely smearing someone as this would end you with grave repercussions, but in Toei Animation, just seen as a gag. This made me sick to my stomach, and I had to make this investigation. Sanji, a man who not only loves all women, but protects them no matter the circumstances, is reduced to a true scum through the twisted vision of a person manipulating his character. A fight that he sadly couldn't win. After being caught, the perp truly went mask off, doubling up on Slander in episode 1124. Because of the clarity of this operation, there was no longer a need to name drop information in the title. In this scene, it would be revealed that Nami was actually the one to save both her and Sanji from the Seraphim. A very confusing addition, as last we saw him, Sanji was chin bullying the Seraphim. Now that we're on their tail, they're getting sloppy, trying to call this character development, like we're supposed to eat it up by conflating it to when he asked Robin for help in Onigashima. But you can't pull one over on a real anime detective. Character development doesn't happen off-screen. That's not growth. That's a rewrite. I mean, why else would Oda have the cover pages? This is why. My conclusion as an ace detective was that it was put in to slander Sanji. Case solved. After looking through the evidence presented for this case, I think it's only logical to say that Toei, or a worker higher in their ranks, has an agenda against Vinsmoke Sanji himself. To whoever at Toei is pulling the strings, I see you. So what's my verdict? Toei Animation, guilty of character assassination in the first degree. Sanji, wronged. The case? Well, it's solved for now. And me? I'm just a humble anime detective, keeping watch over the shadows of the anime world. If you want more answers, you know where to find me. Cue the rain, cue the jazz outro, and cue you hitting the subscribe button.